Technology clearly does not like me today. Bear with me for just a minute while I connect to the internet, because we have to have it.
I could probably make up some things to say about you.
Let's not. I'm sorry, it just doesn't want to connect. Alright, well, we're just going to go with it this way. Thanks, Jim.
Good.
Good. Alright, can you all hear me without this?
Yes. You don't drop your voice.
Okay, I'm going to yell at you. I feel like I'm yelling, but I'm really not. So what I have to start with is what you say here stays here today. We've got Vegas rules at AFP. Confession time. What stresses you out the most in your life? Come on, don't be shy.
Work.
Work. What about work?
Not enough time.
Not enough time.
Having to reschedule meetings that you've already scheduled because somebody didn't look at their calendar.
Oh, that's a good one. All right. Anything else? I'm stunned. I'm coming back to that.
Unrealistic expectations for how much money I'm going to raise.
That's stressful. I think my heart just started pounding a little more over that. What else?
People who take their phones to meetings and use them while you're in a meeting. To text.
I'm guilty of it today. What else stresses you
How
out?
about technology not working during a presentation?
I'm stressed over that. Thank you, Mike. Heather.
I think the overall feeling of make it so. You know, the organization comes with these big plans, these big ideas, these big numbers, and then they just turn to me and it's like, number one, make it so.
Yeah, just a teeny bit stressful.
And the worst part, we try to make it so.
We try to make it so. So we stress ourselves out even further, right? All right, Erica.
I have a lot to say about it.
And I'm going to turn it over to Erica.
No, just the culture of scarcity in nonprofits.
Absolutely. Great point. Lisa.
Not enough people know what we do, so we have trouble selling our mission and getting all the money we probably should be raising.
What else? All right, we're hearing a lot about work. Does anybody's home life stress them out? What stresses you out about your home life, Jim?
I went shopping for bikinis with my teenage daughters this weekend.
Just say no.
That's, yeah.
That's hilarious.
All right,
Deadlines.
I think maybe we need a whole therapy
Deadlines
session.
and not having the internet.
Deadlines, not having the internet, absolutely. What else? Okay. I'm going to tell you what my pet peeve is. When I ask people how they're doing, Kathy, how are you doing? She says, oh my gosh, I am so busy, I'm about to die. I want to scream when that is the first thing somebody tells me. I'm so busy. You know what? We are busy. But I want to know how you really are. Say, no, Amanda, I have this great project I'm working on at work, or I'm going on a great trip. Tell me that. Tell people that you're talking to that. Nobody wants to hear how busy you are because we all are. So we're going to learn how to stop that today. Do you feel that you work 24/7?
Yep.
Pretty much. I think in our society now, success breeds more work. If you're successful at work, what happens? You get more work and more projects assigned to you. And that cycle makes you a workaholic, I think. That you feel like you can't turn off the phone or the email. You're just constantly going because I think often as development professionals, executive directors, we do thrive on being type A, perfectionists, so we just continue to go. I've done this presentation a number of times now, and I always review the latest research, and I think this is so interesting that the Journal of Health and Social Behavior found that when women respond to work-related calls and emails outside of normal hours, they feel increased stress. I think that applies to men too, but the research was done on women. Do y'all feel that way? That you're just constantly connected, you've got to reply? Kathy's right, both of my phones today were going off at a meeting, and it was incredibly rude. But I felt like I had to answer, and I think we all get that way.
You have a reason.
I think we all get that way. No, they need to be put away. All right, we're gonna have a pop quiz. Did everybody get one of these? I'm hopeful that this works today. This is new technology for me. All right, so you see there's an A, B, C, and D. All right, when you think you know the answer, I want you to hold your square up with the letter that you think it is upright facing me. How much does multitasking decrease your productivity?
We can't see the answers on the board.
Okay, we've got A, 25%, B, 40%, C, 65%, D, 0. All right, hold them up. I'm gonna scan and see how many of y'all get this right. Hopefully it's working.
Oh, that's scary.
This is why I needed the internet, so you all could see your responses coming up. So I'm gonna have to share them with you. This is a classroom teacher tool that my husband taught me, and it's kind of awesome. This. I'm loving this. I'm kind of excited. I get a little dirty about this. Technology is not my friend right now. Okay, so I have 20 that's coming through. Oh my goodness. All right, so who thinks they know the answer? Somebody shoot it out.
That's 40.
40% is correct. Of the 20 that I got, 9 of you got it correct. That's kind of awesome. All right, we're going to come back to that, so don't lose these. I think it's kind of fun. 40%. Do you really think there is such a thing as multitasking? No, it's called switch tasking. You start something, you stop it, you start something else. In our minds, we think we're multitasking, but we're really, really terrible at it. And it's not effective. Obviously, we're decreasing our productivity. When we think what we're doing by multitasking, switch tasking, is actually increasing our productivity. It's terribly inefficient, and it's incredibly stressful. So it goes back to that research that the journal did about responding to work outside of work hours. It also increases the production of our fight or flight syndrome and the stress hormone cortisol, which contributes to adverse health effects, a lot of extra weight carried around your belly, which is bad for your heart. So all of this is then in turn terribly impacting our health on a day-to-day life. It's also overstimulating our brains. I don't think that comes as much of a surprise. Quiz number 2. How many points does our IQ drop when dealing with multiple distractions? A is 2 points, B is 15 points, C is 10 points, and D is 18 points. All right, let's try this. Put the biscuit down. That biscuit is killing me.
I guess you got told.
I just wanted to see what the computer said.
Scott still likes it. I'm scanning letters. It's really awesome what's happening here. All right, let me get one more. Get this table here. I wish y'all could see this on the computer, but you know, technology hates me today. All right, so I've got 24 answers. Only 9 of you are correct. Who thinks you know it? I heard it. C, 10 points. It's kind of scary. Do you know what that equates to? It's the same as losing a night's sleep or more than twice the effects of smoking marijuana. Is that not too funny? not only unimportant interruptions and distractions, but also the recovery time associated with getting back on task. That this survey particularly said that workers who were interrupted took an average of 25 minutes to get back on task if they ever got back to the task that same day. These same folks were saying that they were juggling each 12 projects, saying that it just felt like this constant juggling, multitasking craziness. Again, we know that doesn't exist, that it's constant switch tasking. So if you got 12 projects on your plate, are you ever going to get them finished? Probably not. Does that happen to y'all? Multiple projects, feeling like you can't ever get ahead? More than half of U.S. employees waste an hour or more a day on interruptions. 45% report that they can't go for more than 15 minutes without an interruption. And here's our favorite. Almost 2/3 tune out of meetings to read emails, check text messages. One of them even said they take time out just to tweet because it's fun. Or to take a call. I'm okay if somebody has to take a call every now and then. In my line of work at the Red Cross, it could be life or death. That's usually not the case for most of us. My pet peeve outside of being told I'm busy is somebody sitting in a meeting and actually taking a call at the table. Hello? That bothers me. So that's what we're doing. Come back a little bit more to what that says about us. What are your all's time wasters at work? How do you end up wasting your time?
People don't know how to communicate.
Oh. People don't know how to communicate?
I get distracted by the little ping that goes off whenever I get an email.
Oh, good point. I'm going to come back to that. Don't let me forget, Jody. What else?
As a consultant, I have a home office, and I have someone in my home who doesn't really understand that I shouldn't be up.
She's two.
She's not even years old, but she's big slide. He's got this cute little baby in his house.
Okay, well, that's true.
You get a pass on that, Alex. What else? Y'all are quiet. 7 people in one room? Interruption.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep, that's quite distracting, right? How do you take a phone call?
We go out in the hallway or outside.
Yeah. Michelle?
Other interruptions from other people with their priorities.
Yeah. Yes. But they
One
need
is
you
your
right now.
boss.
Yeah.
Will do that.
And who said it earlier, the make it so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Just make it happen.
So the 5 biggest causes of interruption in the same survey from the BDC says that in descending order, a colleague stopping by just to chat, being called away from your desk to take care of something on fire, arrival, new email, someone doing a task on a computer close by and you can hear what they're doing, and a phone call. So I think we hit on almost all of those. So what does this do to our attention span? When you've got those interruptions, how long is our average human attention span? Let's get this back up. All right, so we have A, 8 seconds, B, 30 seconds, C, 22, and D, 13. All right, I'm going to tell you while I'm doing this that our average attention span is 1 second shorter. Are you ready for this? Than a goldfish. Who said that? All right, you better have that right over there. All zeroing in on you right now. All right. We have some smart pants in here. think Autumn may know it.
A.
A, 8 seconds. 8 seconds.
That's longer than I thought.
It's a little sad when a goldfish has his. Yeah.
Well, what is this?
Again, I'm kind of nerdy and I like research, so as I dug into this, what they're finding that is really causing our attention span to drop, work-induced ADD. That more and more trained mental health professionals are seeing a rise in the cases of adult attention deficit disorder. But they're calling it of the work-induced variety. This fella in particular has seen a tenfold rise in just the last 5 or 6 years. Folks were complaining they were more irritable than they wanted to be, their productivity was dropping, and they just simply could not get their lives together and organized. There's a lot of chemistry of addiction that goes into this, which I'm not trained on, but I'm just repeating what I've learned. That chemistry of addiction underlies the compulsive use of cell phones, computers, and tablets. So we become addicted to it. We have a new OCD, online compulsive disorder. I mean, I can't tell you, how'd you go to the grocery store and you see people scrolling through their Facebook or whatever it is they're doing, like, can you not put that thing down for 5 minutes? I mean, I have a friend, that's the first thing she does when she gets up in the morning. She grabs her phone. She scrolls through to see what she missed.
Some of them sleep with it right by their pillow. So they hear it all night.
So they hear, yeah. Can't do that.
Is there a 12-step program for this?
There really should be, I think. There should be. So what happens too with this attention span is when we're allowing ourselves to switch tasks, it's fueling our difficulty in concentration, our organization, and our attention to detail. It also decreases our emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence contributes to being a high performer at work. So if your emotional intelligence is decreasing, your performance also decreasing. Does that make sense? I was really kind of surprised about tying all of that in together. Am I telling y'all anything that you're really surprised about? Which is pretty standard. So I had an aha yet?
The goldfish.
The goldfish. The goldfish is kind of scary.
That's shocking.
So how are we wasting our time? Electronic distractions, meetings that get scheduled, that get canceled, meetings that really have no purpose to exist. Procrastination. I would notice I'm a little bit of a procrastinator. I think we all are sometimes. We are losing slightly over 2 hours a day on unimportant tasks. And that can vary for what your job is. I'm not surprised by that. We're going to see a little more about it. I love organization. It actually makes me really happy. Although sometimes I think I need somebody to professionally organize me. A couple of tips to stop this disorganization in our lives. Don't work in a mess at all. I went down through our blood services office today. Oh my word, those desks are about to explode of just paper and disorganization. And I looked at one of our account reps and he said, I can't find anything. I can't get anything done. I almost took a picture of his desk to bring to y'all, but then I really didn't want to embarrass him. Clean your desks, organize them. It absolutely makes a difference. I know too, if I go home in the evening, my house is in total disarray. I don't know where to start when I get home. So that translates into your home life as well. Make a to-do list at the end of the day before you leave. I'm going to give you a technique from our good friend Sandy Reese, but then I'm also going to give you another technique. Prioritize your list. Here's a couple of ways to do that. I love Sandy Reese. I think a lot of y'all know her. She's coming to Philanthropy Institute next month. So you can tell her that I've stolen her ideas. What Sandy recommends doing is to prioritize your list by A, B, and C. A is must get done. B is it's important to get done, but not as high priority as A. C can wait. Then you assign a number to A, B, and C. Don't start task A2 until task A1 is completed. Do this at the end of the day. So then you've got your list, you said, okay, I've done A1, I've done A2, start moving those things up the priority list. I have typically tried to set an alarm toward the end of the day to say, hey, it's time to wrap up, get prioritized for the next day, using Sandy's technique. However, I'm getting really close to abandoning her technique. For those of you who haven't done any type of to-do list and prioritizing, I think this is a great place to start. Instead of doing to-do lists, I'm placing deadlines on my calendar now. I had a business plan that was due on June 5th at noon. That went on my calendar, I had a notice, and I worked backwards on my calendar to block out time in the days leading up to that deadline that I was working on my FY16 business plan. And I carved it out. Everybody in the Red Cross can see my calendar in the Asheville office. They knew not to schedule something or not to come in and see me because I was busy working on something that had a deadline. I'm also looking at that, what are high value projects that need my attention? Obviously my business plan I had to devise. I couldn't ask a volunteer to do that. And looking at what other tasks can be delegated. When you work in an organization that has a 95% volunteer-led workforce, you get pretty good at delegating and finding things for volunteers to do. Even if that's not your organization, I really, really encourage you to look at how you can better utilize your volunteers. What can they do? Can they do filing for you? Can they stuff envelopes? Can they send birthday cards to volunteers? Can they answer your phone? What can they do that you don't necessarily need to be doing or that you can wait to do? One other tidbit is, we talked about this at Ethics last month, don't serve on fundraising committees. Just don't. It's not worth your time, to be honest. I don't even really want about it. There are other people, if you are a fundraising professional or a director of development, executive director, find another way to utilize your time, but don't volunteer on a committee. That is what you do day in and day out. Look for commitments in your community that are meaningful to you. All right, questions so far? When planning as well, allow for distractions and interruptions. Work on a project for 30 minutes. Get up, move on, do something fun, go chat with that colleague who you like to talk to that likes to come in and interrupt you during the day. Let them know, I'm working on something, I'll come see you in a few minutes. And it gives you something to look forward to during that 30-minute time block. Schedule your most challenging tasks at your most productive time of day. Mine typically is first thing in the morning. Get up, get it done, and I'm looking at my good friend Laura. Laura's a night owl and tends to be most productive at night. I'm embarrassing her and I'm sorry, but we've talked about that.
I wouldn't even be awake at the time you start working.
No, and usually when Laura's really productive, I'm in bed. So hopefully you have that kind of job where you can have that flexibility to, if 9 o'clock at night's your most productive, that you can do that. And that does go against what I think you're probably thinking in terms of work-life balance. Here's my technique. This is the back side of my office door. I have sticky notes everywhere. Conference call, on a call, in a meeting, on a webinar, and I have one that may be on the floor at that point that says, please knock. When I'm on a call, webinar, what have you, we love conference call at the Red Cross. My door is always closed with that orange sticky that says conference call. I close it, I put the note on it, so folks know she's busy, don't interrupt. We have the instant messaging internally. If I'm on a call or in a meeting, I set that to not to bother me so that that's not pinging as well. My other tip, and I may have this somewhere else, as I'm looking at Jody, who said that little ding of email bothers you, turn it off. There is a setting in Outlook to turn off the little ding that comes in and to turn off that little box that pops up in the right-hand corner when you have an email coming in. It's okay to turn that off. This really, actually, I want to say one more thing before I get to this. In addition to the email, I try to check mine 3 times a day. First thing in the morning, midday, and before I go home. Otherwise, that email is closed. It's not even pulled up on my computer. If your building is on fire and something bad is happening, somebody's going to call you and come find you. email can typically wait. And you have to learn how to manage the email to get your high priority, high value projects accomplished. Group some similar items. If you're writing thank you notes, making donor calls, schedule that time to do stewardship all at once. Schedule time to make your donor visit calls. Group things that make sense in your day. Big piece of advice, we have voicemail. Don't feel you have to answer the phone just because it's ringing. Go to voicemail. If you are working on something, let it go. A trick that I've learned over the last couple of weeks is to plan for waiting time. I've had to go to a ton of doctor's visits to get ready for this crazy trip I'm going on next week, which involved a lot of sitting in the doctor's office waiting room. I took work with me, and I churned through it while I was sitting at an hour. It seemed like hour after hour in the doctor's office, just waiting. I got so much accomplished that when I did get back to work, the emails had been gone through, the professional reading I needed to do had been done, so that I could really focus on what my staff and I were working on those days, or a board meeting. Another trick is I try to keep Fridays pretty wide open. That's my day to catch up. Every now and then I'll have breakfast with a really awesome fun board member, but outside of that, I try to keep it pretty open to catch up. Okay, let's talk about depression, which really isn't kind of fun. How many of you think that you work more than 11 hours a day? It's okay to share. I'm not judging you. Nobody's judging you. It doubles your odds of depression. I was fairly surprised by that, but not necessarily. Let's talk about how to manage that, because we don't want to be depressed. Nobody wants to go through life that way, especially when it's being contributed to your life by work. So we have to manage the stress and anxiety in our lives. Leave work at work, usually. Have a caveat for that, usually. If you can't, figure out how to integrate that into your home life. I did this really great Twitter chat a couple of weeks ago with this author, Laura Vanderkam, who, if you don't know her, look her up, and I'm going to give you more information about her. She has this new book out called I Know How She Does It. It's these wonderful professional working women all across the country who are all tweeting back and forth our tips on how we make our crazy busy lives work. One thing I do is, if my son has homework, which is pretty common, he just finished 3rd grade, we'll sit down, he'll work on his homework, I'll work on emails, or something else that I need to bring home. We're sitting there together, he's doing his thing, he can interrupt me and say, hey, I need help with this, and then we go on. At night, when he's doing his reading before bed, I crawl in the bed with him and I read beside him. So we're integrating those things together. That doesn't necessarily seem like a big deal, but to me it is. And maybe to many of y'all, figuring out how to integrate your work and your home is really important. I think as a recovering perfectionist, you have to decide what has to be perfect and what can be good enough. That's hard. That is hard. I had a terrific board member, a number of y'all, our board chair, Julie Heinisch, I know a number of y'all know her. That was the first thing she said to me when she came on as my board chair. Get over the perfectionism, figure out what is good enough, and go on. Don't think twice about it. That's probably some of the most important advice that I've been given that has really stuck with me in terms of figuring out how to make work and life work. I want you to exercise. I want you to sleep. Eat healthy. Take up a hobby, which healthy fried chicken today, not really doing it. So go home and eat something healthy tonight. You have 168 hours in your week to do these things. Let's talk about that. All right, so we're going to come back to 168 hours. Who has not taken vacation time in a year? I really hope you have good reason. 56% of employees say they're in need of a vacation. 19% have canceled or postponed a vacation due to work. And then we have those 3% who are suffering from leisure sickness. Do you know what that is?
No.
They don't know how to relax. They're on vacation doing something awesome and amazing, and they don't know how to forget about work. That's what out of office replies and voicemail messages are for. I am unavailable to access my email. I will return those on June 30th when I come back to the office. Don't think about it. Again, I know I'm using a lot of Red Cross examples, but as you all know, there's been massive flooding in Houston, Texas. Our regional disaster director for Houston had scheduled her vacation. Floods happened. Her superior, the division vice president, said, go on vacation. This flooding isn't going away anytime soon, and I need you to come back to handle the long haul of this. She said it was the weirdest thing she'd ever done, was to not be connected during a really significant disaster in Texas. She came back, she was ready to go. She didn't think about her phone, she didn't think about work, because she knew what was coming back, what she was coming back to, and she wanted to be rested and relaxed to take on the long haul of recovery in Houston. It's okay to do that. It really is. You have to give yourself permission to do that, and you have to talk to your supervisor about giving you permission to do that. My CEO is awesome. She's in Colorado hiking this week. She's hiking Kilimanjaro in 2 months. She absolutely gets taking time off to relax and rejuvenate, and also to know, you know what, you've got kids at home, you may need to work a day at home because they're sick. Completely okay with that. Have those conversations with your supervisors. I know Becky has a great work-life balance with the Community Foundation and her little girl. It's okay to ask. The worst thing somebody's going to say is no, and if they do, you may need to reevaluate. Is this the right place for me to be working? And that's okay to do as well. All right, here comes the fun. I don't like using work-life balance. Really no such thing. It's work-life control. Sometimes work's gonna be really busy. This week for me, my day starts tomorrow at 4:15 a.m., does not end until after 7 p.m. tomorrow. It's a good thing my child is with his grandmother, because then I would feel guilty. So you have to know that some days are gonna be really busy, others are not. And let me watch time. And then there's gonna be days where work's pretty slow, and that's okay, and focus a little more on your home life. Control it that way, or integrate it, as I mentioned earlier. I know this is kind of hard to see. This is my time log for last week. This is my life, last Monday through Sunday. These giant chunks here is a carryover. So Monday for me, I actually took a PTO day to volunteer at my son's field day all day long. People who work with little kids have a special place in my heart after volunteering at Vance Field Day. So you can see, I got up at 6:30. What did I do? I packed my lunch. I drove to Vance. At the end of the day, I replied to urgent emails that had to be replied to. I had to go for a run with my husband that afternoon, which never happens. Came home, I prepared and had dinner with my family all around the table. For 2 hours that night, we had company over because we are keeping their guinea pig, Ruth Bader Guineas, for the summer. So we got the tutorial on keeping Ruth for the summer with company. Had time to get ready for the next day, started doing some trip planning because I'm leaving soon. At 9:30 Monday night, I had an absolute freak out moment. I put it on my time log. My best friend's son was graduating from high school. A couple of weeks before, I said, how can I help you? Without blinking, she said, bake the cake. Fine, got it under control. I thought the graduation party was on Saturday. She said, you know it's Friday night at 9:30 Monday night. After I had how I was going to make all this happen, had an absolute freak out. How am I going to make this happen? I took that time to have a freak out and have a little bit of a panic attack. And I got back to the task and said, all right, I'm changing my week and this is how it's gonna look. I even had time to do a little yoga before bed, which is kind of important in my life. So that was Monday. Tuesday, fairly similar day. I was back in the office though. I had a breakfast meeting. You'd see I even plug out when I do email. I took a call from Alex, and I even took a 30-minute call with a scholarship mom who was yelling at me because her son did not get a scholarship from the Red Cross. It had nothing to do with me, but I took time to listen to her. 30 minutes out of my life that I cannot get back though. So think about those things. Also, when I'm traveling, I cover 16 counties. I spend a lot of time in the car. A lot of times on those rides though, I'll make calls that I need to catch up on. Not on the phone, on the Bluetooth, just to catch up. Go all the way down through here. Let's see, nothing super exciting at that point. Wednesday, what do I want to point out? Lots of meetings, emails. This was the day that I sat in the doctor's office to get vaccinated and where I got caught up on a whole lot of stuff. I counted that time though, when I was doing my log and counting up the hours that I was working. Because I was replying. So let's see, both of those days I had time to run. I'm a teach class at the YWCA, I added that. So at the end of the week I had almost 8 hours of exercise time. Here comes the fun, 6:30 to 9:30, Wednesday night, I started baking cupcakes. 4 dozen cupcakes and started making the homemade icing to go with them. My son helped. So I hadn't seen him, it was a crazy day, we had dinner. He's in the kitchen helping me. I count that as my family time too. Yeah, I'm doing something, but Wade's in there helping me. And we had a great time. Thursday, pretty similar day. I spent a lot of time on con calls, teach class. Here we go, 6:30 to 10:30. Now Wade was not with me till 10:30. Obviously he was in bed. We iced the cupcakes. He helped make the little graduation caps to go on it. We had a great time. The next morning on the way in to school with my husband, he said, I had the best time ever with Mama last night. So you can integrate it. You can make it work. Friday, again, tons and tons of meetings. Tons of meetings, tons of phone calls. Made time in the middle of the day to go for a run and to get showered back up. To go back on more con calls. Even had time to get my hair done, went to a graduation party, those cupcakes were ready. Saturday, I had a 4-hour nap. It's kind of awesome. I don't ever get to do that. Sunday, because I had this coming up, I'm going to be honest, confession time, I skipped church because I needed to work. I had to get this done. Got it all ready, and even had time, again, I went out in the middle of the afternoon and had some drinks with some girlfriends because I had made some time, balanced it all out, and I watched 1 hour of TV the entire week. Wow. How much, I should have put this on here. Do you know how much TV the average American works? Watches? Over 20 hours a week. It's a part-time job. Part-time job. I watched 1 hour of television. So here's my log. Out of 168 hours, I've given you 147 of them. I worked 35 hours last week in addition to having a PTO day. So I almost had a full 40-hour week, even with a day off. Spent about 15 hours on chores, which I counted in chores as cooking dinner, cleaning up dinner, general laundry, getting laundry started, those kind of things. I had 8 solid hours of family time last week. I counted in the hour that I went for a run with my husband as family time. The time that we were in the kitchen was family time. I slept 53 hours, which when I did the math, that's about 7.5 hours a night. That also factored in the 4-hour nap. 16 hours of personal care, which is really time getting ready in the morning, showering, doing your hair, all those good things. And I factored in my hair appointment to that. 7 exercise hours, so about an hour every day I was able to exercise. 7 hours volunteering in the community. I had 5 hours with friends and 1 hour of television. So 21 hours left over. I didn't factor in commuting time and just some random little things like that, but those were the big ones. If you had 15 extra minutes a day, what would you do with it? Oh, come on. Exercise.
She said she would think about exercise.
It works. Come on, what would you do? You have 15 minutes a day. I promise. I managed to do all that in a week. You can too. I promise. There is no reason any of us should say we are so busy, we can't find time to do X. It's absolutely about prioritizing your work and your life and finding time for a little bit of fun. It's also about utilizing your networks. I'm a fairly lucky gal. My husband likes to cook. He doesn't mind helping clean or mow the yard because heaven forbid I do that. Or take care of the chickens because I would let them die because I couldn't feed them. So you have to utilize the resources around you as well so that you can find that time. And again, home life, what is good enough and what is perfect? I had to share. Here's my sweet little boy. He's making the little graduation caps, and that was the final product that we had a ton of fun on. He's kind of cute, isn't he? All right, we have about 12 minutes before it's 1:30. Does anybody have a time dilemma that you want to toss out we can talk about? Oh, come on. I've done this before. People are like, oh my God,
We're all
I'm
feeling
so
so guilty, Amanda.
I know.
Why? I don't feel guilty. This has been a work in progress for me for years. Years and years. I was so glad that Annie Frischner, 3 years ago, said, would you do something on this? Because it's really forced me over that time to really talk about and think about what's important. Karen.
When you're in a small community and you're in fundraising, I feel like you always have to be on. I mean, you go to the gym, you're gonna run into somebody, you go to the grocery store, you're gonna be, and you just kind of always, plus it's good for business, but,
Right.
That's challenging for me, because, not that I'm a wild child or anything, but you always have to be kind of ready.
You do. A couple of things that I can share with you. I have running meetings with my good friend Allison Jordan. That's sort of our therapy time, but we're kind of sharing our best practices as executive directors and running all at the same time. So we're knocking out a lot of birds with one stone. 7 a.m. in the morning, you see a lot of people you know in Montford, and you look awful, and it's okay. So first thing, the reason I share that, let it go about how you look after you've been to the gym or the grocery store. I saw Sarah Landry yesterday as I'm puffing and puffing up Montford. Going, hi Sarah, yeah. See, Becky Davis a lot when I run. You have to let it go, A, about how you look, and being okay with seeing people that you know, and that you may not always be at your best. And that's okay. And I know Henderson County is different, and there's a lot of events, and yeah. And I will speak to that I know in my world, I could spend every night in Henderson County at an event. I could spend every night probably in all of my counties at an event. Figure out what is most important for you to attend and go to those.
I'd like to share an experience that I had when I found out that what you said today is so important. Before I came to work where I do now, I worked for a large corporation, and I was responsible for from 17 to 25 properties, retirement communities in 5 states, and I did that for 10 years. And I worked 60, 70 hours a week. Came home. My husband's a minister, so on Sunday it was crazy. I have grandchildren, and I didn't prioritize. I thought I could work 70 hours a week, 80 hours a week. And so I passed out work. And I was in Charlotte, and I wound up in step down in the hospital. And they thought I had a heart attack, and I kind of tests on me. And then I came to Asheville and had to go to the hospital here, and I was in step down there. They ran all kind of tests on me. And all it was just the stress of work and not taking care of myself. And the doctor came in, I'll never forget the day she came in and she looked at me and she said, you've got a choice to make today. You want to live or you want to die. She said, you keep up the schedule you're going. And I loved my job. I loved it. Every day I loved it. But I also loved my family. And so I had to make a decision, and I was blessed that this job at Carolina Village had just opened up. It's a new position there. And I've learned over the last 3 years how to take care of myself and how to do just what she says, is to prioritize the things that really need to be done.
Because at the end of the day, you know, you have to think about yourself and your health. Because it's very important, and you're the only one that can do anything about it. So,
Thanks for sharing that with us very much. All right, a couple of last things. I know I've talked about us being a little addicted to our technology and apps. There are some good ones out there to use. These are just some suggestions. I'm going to have the slides sent out to you so you can take a look at these. A couple of them, My Organized Life, it helps generate to-do lists for you with priority actions. So my technique, you're not really having a great success figuring one out. Here's one that will help you. Focus at Will. This is fascinating. It's designed to boost your productivity by combining neuroscience and music. So you can go to that and get this music. It's supposed to boost your productivity by 400%, which is kind of exciting. If you're try that and you have good results, I want to know. List-tastic organizes your information into 3 sections of active, later, and completed. So if you like lots of lists, this is a great one. 30-30 allows you to use countdown timers as you're working on tasks. So that 30-minute project, you can try this, and it helps give you some real increasing awareness of how long it's taking you to complete tasks. So you can see if you're over or underestimating time in terms of completing projects. One thing I'll do is just set the timer on my phone to count down to 30 minutes. I'll say, okay, go, and then just go for it for 30 minutes to get through something. Evernote, I'm a big fan of it. It's a great one that you can access from all your devices to store just about anything. Pictures, notes, lists, Christmas shopping, whatever you need to do. Probably have about 200 of those in my Evernote app. But don't get bogged down in all of the options that are out there. Just find something that works. Laura Vanderkam is my new hero, in case I hadn't mentioned that before. Her book, 168 Hours, You Have More Time Than You Think, has definitely changed my life. Going through reading that, helping prioritize, using that time log to really figure out where I need to be spending time. Where am I spending too much, not enough? Phenomenal book. She also just released I Know How She Does It, which is definitely geared more to the female crowd, but she's amazing. You can follow her on Twitter at @lvanderkam. All right, last quiz. A is true, B is false. I learned at least one new tip to implement today. All right, while I'm doing this, does anyone want to tell me something that you're going to try?
I'm going to try to start scheduling my most difficult tasks when I'm most productive.
Awesome. When are you most productive, Aaron?
About 9:30.
AM or PM?
AM, the coffee's kicked in.
The coffee's kicked in. Awesome. I want to know how that goes.
I'll let you know.
All right. Who else?
I'm going to turn off my email maker.
Hey, John. I'm going to check in on you.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody else going to try something new?
30-minute segments of work.
I'm telling you, that has saved my hide more than once. Just sit down, turn it all off, turn the phones off, close the door, do it. I promise you won't regret it. Anything else? All right. Y'all were awesome. Thank you for letting me be with you today.